Hey everybody, today I wanted to talk to you guys about a homeschool update. This is going to be pretty chatty, it's going to be pretty wordy, so if you're coming for like a short and sweet video, sorry to disappoint you. But I've also made where I stand on certain issues very clear here on my channel, so this is not kind of a debate or a conversation. I'm not looking to have any questions answered. I know exactly where I stand with these issues. So does my husband, so does our family. So really no need for that in the comments. You don't have to watch this video. No one has to subscribe if they don't want to. Nobody has to watch my content if they don't want to. So I hope moving forward and watching the rest of the video that you can understand that. Our explanation of where things are headed and also a little context of maybe bringing people up to speed a little bit. So if you are new to my channel or my videos, which interesting first video that you chose, but welcome. We are secular homeschoolers. I've done it for 2 years. So before the pandemic, our children, our two oldest, went to a private preschool, loved it, had absolutely no complaints, and was going to continue to do the private preschool that we liked, and then integrate our kids into public schools. Everything was all in line and in place to start moving forward with that, and then the pandemic hit. So our preschool chose to let out school early that year and just kind of dismiss, as a lot of schools did, and we had a bit of an abrupt ending to the school year. I think almost all of us expected that by the time fall rolled around, we would all be back to normal. Wouldn't that have been awesome? So obviously it wasn't, and that's what led us to our first decision about homeschooling. So from here on out, I do want to make it clear that I am talking about decisions that my husband and I have made for our family. So just that, our family. I understand that there are different options and different things to consider with each and every family. Every dynamic is different. So by no means is anything that I'm saying a ridicule against anybody else's decisions. I'm just talking strictly about our own and the options that we had available to us. So my husband does work outside the home, I work at home, and I do have the ability to make room in my life to homeschool our children. I also met the requirements by the state of Ohio, which is the state that we live in, to be able to do this. So I understand that homeschooling is a privilege that not everybody has, but I am a work from home mom, so I have been able to rearrange our lives to accommodate that, and that's what we settled on. It did not feel safe with the options that we had to send our kids into public school unvaccinated while COVID was just running rampant. That particular strain did not affect children as much, but it still just felt like the best option. So we did that with every intention of the next year putting them into public school. Come the next year around, making the decisions, which I typically was making my homeschool decisions late July, early August, because there is paperwork and stuff that has to be submitted. You have to be excused from your school district's superintendent and stuff like that. So I also want to give myself ample time to make sure I get all that stuff done. There was less COVID precautions in public schools than there had been the first year. The particular strain at the time was also now affecting kids more at a increased rate, I guess you could say. So it felt like even less of a good idea. So we figured one more year and hopefully all our girls can be vaccinated. And we do have 3 daughters. Their ages right now are 7.5, 6, and 2. So we were hoping that, by the end of this summer, right now, that all of them would be vaccinated, and our oldest 2 are completely vaccinated and also boosted, which is amazing. And our youngest actually just got her first COVID shot, and she will be fully vaccinated by like mid to late August. So that would allow for them to probably go back into the public school system. Now, COVID is definitely still something that we take precautions with. We still mask indoors. We still watch case rates. We still watch for waves. We are still COVID conscious, and we do take it seriously, even though we are going to be a completely vaccinated and we are a healthy family and we are all generally young and in, good conditions and stuff like that. It's still something to take seriously. So we continue to do that. That will just be something that we live with for the rest of our lives, probably. And that's kind of where we are with COVID, with all of us being vaccinated and the ones that can are boosted and stuff like that. Integrating, paying attention, and making the best decisions in the time that we currently are in get some kind of resemblance of normalcy. So when case rates are down, it means going out with the kids more, doing more things indoors, whether it be movies or activities or vacations, whatever. And then, you know, when there's a wave or increased cases and stuff, it means definitely make sure that we're masking up and we're not going places that we might not need to, and just kind of riding out that wave. So the goal is not to never get COVID, it's to limit the amount of times that we do get COVID, because the more you get it, the more it affects your health. So that's our goal as a COVID conscious family. So that's kind of where we were with it. COVID was no longer at the forefront of our homeschool decision making, I guess is what I'm saying. Is definitely something we still considered, but it wasn't a reason to keep the kids out of public school anymore, because we felt that we have protected them as much as we can. We can send them to school with masks, stuff like that. However, two issues that have been a reoccurring concern for my husband and I have really just exploded this past summer. I think they've increasingly gotten worse over the years. I don't know that anybody could really disagree with that. And that is school shootings and the increasing concern of the quality of education in public schools. The quality topic is a bit more complex, so I guess I'll save that one and just address, the school shootings. That's just something that's very normal here in America, and I know a lot of countries do not understand, and it's definitely one of those things that makes you sick and makes you upset and makes you feel almost helpless, and the kind of things that you have to witness and that are normalized and that people have to go through, the conversations people have to have. And recently we had what was the third worst school shooting in America's history, and that was in Uvalde, Texas. And personally, that hit me really hard. I think you'd be hard pressed to find people who it didn't affect. I think we were all just in grievance for that entire community, and it's just one of those things that really just kind of shakes everybody to their core and really feels unbelievable, even with something that is so common in America. There's a lot more that I could say on this subject. I feel very strongly about it. I feel very strongly about a lot of things anymore. For the sake of the video not being like 2 hours long, I'll leave it at that. Uvalde's situation and the lack of anything being done by it, and the continued news that comes out surrounding it, and exactly how atrociously those families, that community was let down by people who were supposed to protect them. It started a conversation in our own home of, do we send the kids back to public school? I've already been homeschooling for a couple of years, and we've never committed to anything long term because our goal was to always send them back. But we truly feel like it's not a matter of if, but when it happens around us. With me having the ability to homeschool, it just feels like the best decision to not put our kids in that position. So we were kind of already having that discussion. So when it comes to the quality of the education curriculum, whatever you want to call it, the entire atmosphere, honestly, of public schools, I feel like is up for question anymore as well. You have school board members, teachers, legislators, governors who want to erase entire communities' history out of school, their presence out of school. They would prefer to not talk about those things, to pretend they don't exist, to spin it in a way that makes it look like it wasn't so bad. They don't want to allow space for the communities like LGBT plus, BIPOC, disabled, poor, women, and so many others. Because if it's not white and Christian centered, it feels like it honestly doesn't need to be a part of public school anymore. And that's not okay with us. That's not okay with us. These are the people who also believe that COVID is not an issue. These are people who do not want to have an accurate account of history. These are people who want to force their own religious beliefs on others. These are people who want to not protect children from the very real threat that faces them, and educators and other kind of public school staff on a daily basis, and we don't want to subject our kids to that. We have the ability and the means and the privilege to homeschool them. So unless something changes, we will be indefinitely homeschooling. I am willing to do whatever I need to do to find tutors or curriculum, teach it to my damn self, whatever it might be, so that these kids can flourish and learn in the ways that they are supposed to, the way that public school is supposed to help children of all races, religions, genders, classes, all of it. I want our children to grow up with that. I want them to have a quality education. We passionately feel like it's our duty as their parents to teach them that human rights are not up for debate, that every community has a space here. I, as much as anybody else who might be in this situation, truly hopes that something changes. I wanted this experience for my children. I know what it was like to grow up in the public school system, and it was definitely tough. And like I said, I think that there definitely needs to be changes and some overhaul done. But the changes being made are not good ones. They're not benefiting children. They are not protecting children. They are not servicing them for the better. They are perpetuating this narrative that is harmful and dangerous and honestly despicable. So while I would truly hope that something changes, that legislation is passed, that more common sense is brought into public schools, I don't think it'll be done in our children's time. Maybe you live in a more progressive place and this isn't something that affects you that much. But in these really conservative rural parts of the United States, there's going to be a lot of people waiting for a really long time for the changes to be made, because it takes a slow and steady effort. It's not going to happen overnight. I would love for this to be like, oh, hopefully in a few years we'll be sending the kids back to public school. But I feel like at this point, we have to be realistic about it. It's kind of like COVID. We kind of figured that maybe we'd all get vaccinated and then we could just do whatever. Just move on with our lives. But that's not how it is. That's not responsible. That's not for the better of our community. The new normalcy that we have has to take that into consideration. You have to consider COVID. You have to consider the precautions needed in that time, looking at the cases, looking at where things stand in the current moment. It's something that's going to have to be evaluated for the rest of our lives. If it means limiting the amount of times that we experience COVID and, better protects our children's health and our own health, and not taking additional years off our lives and complications, long COVID and things like that, then it's very much worth the work, especially when it comes to protecting our community as well. We've just kind of come to that realization that it's different than what we expected. I think that's where we're at with homeschool as well. So yeah, that just kind of led us to the decision that unless something drastic changes, that we will be homeschooling indefinitely. Again, we are secular homeschoolers, which means that religion does not play a role in our curriculum as far as being incorporated with it. However, obviously, I do plan on teaching the kids about different religions. I know that we have said that we're not religious before, but honestly, that was just a very mild way of putting how we actually are, or what we believe, whatever you want to say. It's just not something that I openly share, or have at least in the past, just because of the different reactions that I've had to deal with over my life. I've felt this ever since I was 16. I'm now 29, and it is just something that has deepened throughout my life. So it's not something that I've ever questioned, but my beliefs are something that have just deepened and grown more and more sure of as I have aged. So especially with the direction that things are headed with the United States and the different Supreme Court rulings that have come out that have infringed on religious rights of so many, especially in public schools. My husband and I are atheists, and that's exactly how we feel. Just as everyone has the freedom of religion, we also have the freedom from religion. So I hope that everyone can be respectful with that. It's not something that I've ever wanted to like inherently put on my platform, because I think if you've been here for any length of time, you've been able to see my character and my values and my morals and the kind of person that I am. And I hope that that has stood out. And that's what I want to do in the world. That's what I want to do with my channel. That's what I want to teach my children. And your beliefs shouldn't make you a better person. It should be something, you know, that benefits you in a different way, definitely. But if you're only a good person because of what you believe in or what you don't believe in, then I think that's a problem. It is felt like it's not important to share because that's not the reason I am who I am. The reason that I am the version of Alia that you guys see and the person that I am, the kind of content that I make, it's because that's who I am as a person. And I'm pretty proud of the work that I've done, and I just want to make it accessible to as many people as it can be. Because at the end of the day, if a mom asks me for help with a breast pump, or, you know, if this car seat is something I would suggest or not, my first question is not, what's your faith? What's your political standing? Stuff like that. I would rather just help people when it came to things like that. Now, if we're going to get on a more personal level, like these videos or chit chats or, I don't know, stuff that is more personal, being friends, you know, getting along and things like that, that will definitely require some deeper conversations. And I do have boundaries and lines. And at this point in my life, I'm not interested in being around people who do not carry the same values as me. They just don't hold space in my life. Any amount of hate I've ever received in my life, now I am a white woman, so keep in mind the amount of hate that I can receive is not even close to those of some. But the most hate I've received in my life has came from people who have found out or who have asked me, and I have shared the fact that I'm an atheist and the things that I've heard and I've had to endure and stuff because of that is not something that I wish to openly inflict on myself on a regular basis, I guess is what I'm saying. I feel perfectly fine, and I feel very sure and confident in my own beliefs, and so does my husband. But it's just, you know, it's not something that you want to feel like you constantly have to defend or that you have to explain. That's kind of my reasoning for keeping it to myself. For the most part, things have changed so much over the past few years. Things are just so much different than what we would hope that they are. And with that and being responsible for our girls, we take that responsibility very seriously. So we want to make sure that we're doing the best with the options available to us and our family. And that's what led us to this decision. And while I am definitely intimidated by this idea, I know that I can rise to the occasion for them. Any kind of insecurities I might have about myself or my abilities, I will either find resources or tutors or anything to fill in the gaps if it means getting them the education that they deserve in the safest way possible. And I'm also eager. These past 2 years of homeschooling have really shown me how nice the schedule is, how flexible and accommodating it is, especially with Mark's change in schedule. It's not something that I've shared verbatim, and I won't, but his schedule is inconsistently consistent, if I can put that in the best way possible. There's definitely a schedule to it, but it is something where if the kids were in public school, it would just be a bummer. It would change our family dynamic and the amount of time that they get to spend with their dad and stuff like that. And being homeschoolers, we can fit that to revolve around us. Whether it's doctor's appointments or field trips or doing stuff like I don't know, like anything, extracurricular activities, getting groceries, things like that. It doesn't have to all revolve around the kids going to school. I'm looking into different homeschool, I'm not sure what they're called. I know there's a word for it, but you know, some kind of community that's for progressive homeschool parents. If there's anything out there that exists currently, please let me know. If I'm going to be the sole person to see my kids through their at least, you know, 18 and under academic years. I want to do it alongside people and have field trips and activities and hang out with other people who are also aligned in our values and what's important and those kind of things. So if that kind of stuff doesn't already exist, I'm going to create it, because I know that there's a community of people out there like myself that are not religious homeschoolers, that they aren't conservative homeschoolers, and that they are COVID conscious, they are respectful of human rights, and they advocate for them and things like that. I can definitely feel the responsibility that I'm shouldering. And I think I'm grieving the expectation that our kids would be able to have A, B, C, and D if we did these things, and that their future is looking different. But I'm also really hopeful. I feel like this is a really good decision. It felt like the best one. It felt like the right one when Mark and I were making it. And it's something that the more I think about homeschooling indefinitely and what it could mean for our lives, what it could mean for our children, for their education, for their upbringing, for what it could mean as them becoming an individual, it makes me very sure and very confident of this decision. And I think my husband would say the same thing if he was here. That's another thing, like, even though this channel is very centered around me, obviously being the face of the channel, and you guys don't really see Mark anymore, obviously he is their father. I think a lot of the times people think that because Mark is quiet, that he is shy or timid, and that it couldn't be farther from the person that my husband is. He is reserved, mostly because he doesn't like to talk to most people. It's not because he doesn't have anything to say. It's most of the time he just doesn't like other people, and he doesn't want to talk to other people. That's just kind of the person that he is. He keeps to himself, and he's comfortable doing that kind of thing. He has about a handful of people that he actually enjoys, and those are the people that he pays attention to and he gives his energy to. And he is the most stubborn and headstrong person that I know, and I feel very grateful to be doing this with him and having him as a life partner and a husband and the father to my children. And I'm really grateful for him. It can feel really lonely when you live in a very rural place and you're a progressive person and you feel like there's not anybody around you, but it's very nice for your life partner to be there and being like right there beside you, saying the things that you're thinking and just getting it. You know, it just really feels like you've got a built-in ally in all this, and these are as much his decisions as they are mine, and we come together, we try to do the best thing possible for the kids. I'm really proud of the job that Mark and I have done. Like I said, this was going to be chatty, but that's kind of where we are and our mind frame with it. From here on out, homeschool content will probably be consistent. If anything changes, of course, I will, make a video filling you in. But I think for the time being, I would just assume that we are secular homeschoolers and that I will share as much content on that as I can and that I have in the past. I don't have the curriculum ready. I'm still trying to fine tune that. So that video will probably be mid to late August, just kind of depending. But I do have a homeschool supply haul and also a back to school baskets, because even though we won't be starting until the first week of September, a lot of you are saying that you start late July, even early August, stuff like that. So even though we're not going to be starting at the same time, I want to give you guys some ideas, and I actually found a lot of it just over the past couple of days, and they're pretty much finished. So I want to share that with you guys. That should be coming next week, along with the homeschool supply haul, which is more than just typical school supplies. I actually found some other things that I'm really excited to use with our homeschool stuff. So that's about everything that I can think of. If we made it all the way to the end of the video, why don't we put the pencil emoji so I know that you hung out with me the entire time, and I really appreciate you if you did. I know this was a long one. You know, if you're feeling the same way, if you want to talk about those kind of feelings down in the comments, I'm definitely here for you. I know it can feel lonely depending on where you are in this country and feeling like you might be the only one who believes in this kind of stuff and like these just common sense kind of things, but I'm here and you're not alone, and there's many of us out there. So yeah, I hope you guys are having a good summer and you're enjoying your time. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, and as always, thanks for watching.